All right, guys, welcome back to Mets Central. This is game review number 15, where the Mets beat the Kansas City Royals by a score of 2-1. Um, Evan couldn't do the post game today, so he asked me to do it. So yeah, let's get into it. Obviously, like I said before, Mets defeat the Royals by a score of 2-1, and obviously another big win today as they actually took the series from Kansas City um, by a score of 2-1, and again, which is very huge because they take this series now. They have a three game set against the Pittsburgh Pirates again at Citi Field. So if they can find a way to go 4-2 in this homestand right here, this is big, especially since after the Pittsburgh series they go out to California where they got to play the Dodgers and the Giants, and also after a very bad homestand that they had at the beginning of the year where they only went 1-5 against the Brewers and the Tigers. This right here is big. Obviously, you want to win your games at home, so yeah, let's get into it. And obviously, before the game, there was a very nice ceremony at Citi Field with Doc Gooden getting his number retired. And congratulations to Doc, one of the best pitchers in Mets franchise history. And, he was obviously on that 1986 Mets winning team, World Series winning team. And yeah, just well deserved for him. And like I said, very nice ceremony. And then you'll see Darryl Strawberry get his number retired later on in the season, I think sometime in June. So yeah, let's get into it. Obviously, you had Jose Butto starting for the Mets, and Jose Butto pitched very well today. He had his changeup working very well, his slider working very well, and his fastball working well as well. So top of the first, he'd get Michael Garcia to strike out, followed by strikeouts of Bobby Wood Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino. So very clean first inning for Jose Butto. Three strikeouts, very good way to start the game. Bottom of the first, you had Brandon Nimmo. He hit a single, followed by Marte striking out. Lindor would then fly out to Hunter Renfroe, and Pete would strike out on a foul tip. So Mets would leave Brandon Nimmo on base. Moving on to the top of the second, you had Salvador Perez hitting a double off Budo, um, followed by MJ. He would get MJ Melendez to fly out sharply to Harrison Bader. Nelson Velasquez would then strike out. He hit Adam Frazier with a pitch, so obviously a little bit of a jam for Budo here. Second inning with runners on first and second with two outs. Fortunately, though, he was able to strike out Hunter Renfroe, so no damage done there. Moving on to the bottom of the second, you had Tyrone Taylor striking out. Alvarez would then ground out sharply to Miguel Garcia, and Jeff McNeil would ground out to Bobby Witt. Moving on to the top of the third, Budo would strike out Kyle Isabel on a foul tip. Then he'd get Michael Garcia to fly out to Tyrone Taylor, and then he would get Bobby Witt to fly out to Tyrone Taylor in right field as well. So three very strong innings for Jose Butto so far, which is what you like to see. Moving on to the bottom of the third, you had Zach Short striking out. Harrison Bader would fly out to Kyle Isabel in center field, and Brandon Nimmo would strike out. Moving on to the top of the fourth, Buddha would walk Vinny Pasquantino. Fortunately, though, he was able to get a big ground ball double play as he was able to double up Salvador Perez. So two huge outs. And then he was able to get MJ Melendez to fly out to center field where Harrison Bader would catch the ball. Then moving on to the bottom of the fourth, Starling Marte would get a single, followed by Francisco Lindor also getting a single, which you'd like to see. Obviously, Lindor's been struggling this year, so nice to see he's starting to pick it up a bit. Unfortunately, though, you would think, with first and second, nobody out, the Mets would drive in a run. Unfortunately, that is not how that inning went. Pete Alonso would pop out to Salvador Perez behind the plate, and then Tyrone Taylor came up where he would rip he would rip a line out to MJ Melendez in left field. He would throw the ball to Salvador Perez. Marte tried to tag up. Unfortunately, Salvador Perez would tag out Marte at the plate. Then on that play as well, Salvador Perez would actually come out of the game as he hyperextended his, I think it was his left leg. So, and he would come out of the game as well. So obviously, hopefully Salvador Perez is all right. It shouldn't be that bad of an injury, but obviously, you never want to see anybody get hurt. So, but unfortunately, the Mets were not able to pick up a run that inning. Then moving on to the top of the fifth, Budo was able to get Nelson Velasquez to fly out to center field. He would then get Adam Frazier to fly out to left field, and he would strike out Hunter Renfroe to end the top of the fifth. Then bottom of the fifth, you had a defensive substitution. Like I said, Salvador Perez came into the game, so Freddie Fermin came in to catch for the Royals. Alvarez would strike out. McNeil would get hit by a pitch on the hand. Fortunately, he was all right, so he was able to stay in the game. Zach Short would then strike out. Harrison Bader would then get a single into left field. So the Mets had first and second with 2 outs. Unfortunately, though, Brendan Nimmo would ground out the Vinny Pasquantino, so that ended that inning. So once again, the Mets stranded runners on base. Then moving on to the top of the 6th, BUTTO was able to strike out Kyle Isabel. He called out Michael Garcia on strikes as well. Bobby Witt would then rip a double off BUTTO. But then, fortunately for him, no damage came out of that inning as he was able to get Vinny Pasquantino to line out to Francisco Lindor. And that would ultimately be his day done. And BUTTO with a strong line as he'd pitch six complete innings, which is big. The Mets haven't gotten a lot of their pitchers to pitch 6 innings as well. I think Shamanaya was the only one so far, I think. So big for him as, you know, you don't want to burn out your bullpen early on this year. But like I said, 6 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. So Jose BUTTO for me has, cemented his spot in this rotation. And obviously after the game, we got some very good news. In his press conference. Carlos Mendoza was asked about Jose BUTTO, and he said that after today's really good start, that Jose BUTTO is here to stay. So he's going to stay in this rotation, and pretty much it's his rotation spot to lose until Senga comes back. So very good on BUTTO, and good for him on cementing his spot. But anyway, moving on to bottom of the 6th, Starling Marte would strike out on a foul tip. Lindor would get a single. Pete would then walk, so you had first and second with 1 out. Tyrone Taylor then he would pop out to Vinny Pasquantino, and then unfortunately Francisco Alvarez would ground out to end that inning. So once again, the Mets leave runners on base and they couldn't get a run across, which was very frustrating. Especially after the last couple of games where they scored a bunch of runs, but it is what it is. Sometimes you're gonna have these games where they're gonna be close and you're going to be, and it's going to be these tight pitching duels. Then moving into the top of the 6th, you had Adam Ottavino coming in for Jose BUTTO. He was able to get Freddie Fermin to pop out. He'd get MJ Melendez to strike out, and then he'd strike out Nelson Velasquez as well. So nice, easy 1-2-3 inning for Adam Ottavino. It's what you like to see, and so far this bullpen has pitched very well this year for the Mets. Then moving into the bottom of the 6th, John Schreiber would come in and he'd replace Cole Reagans, who'd pitch 6 innings as well for the Royals. Jeff McNeil would ground out to Adam Frazier. Then Carlos Mendoza would make a substitution as Brett Beatty would pinch hit for Zach Short. Beatty would get a single. Harrison Bader would then fly out. Nimmo would then get a single. So first and second with 2 outs. Starling Marte would then get a walk. So now you have the base loaded, and Francisco Lindor, who came up to bat. Unfortunately, though, with him batting from the left side, we know this year that hasn't been a strong suit for Lindor, and he would pop out. So yet again, Mets leave runners on base, and they couldn't get any runs across. Brett Beatty would remain in the game, playing third, and Brooks Raley would come into relief as he'd replace Adam Ottavino. Raley would get Garrett Hampson to strike out. He'd then strike out Hunter Renfroe as well. Nick Lofton would then pinch hit for Kyle Isabel, and Brooks Raley would get the ground out. He would get Nick Lofton the ground out to Jeff McNeil. So quick 1-2-3 inning for Brooks Raley. Again, it's what you like to see out of this bullpen. Then bottom of the 8th, this is where the Mets would finally be able to get some runs across. It would start with Pete Alonso walking, then a very nice bunt by Tyrone Taylor as he was able, he got the force. It was a sacrifice bunt, and he was able to get Pete Alonso to move up to second base. Then Francisco Alvarez, who we thought this would be a big at bat for him. He would be able to get Pete across, but fortunately he flew out to Garrett Hampson. So now you got Pete at second. It's 2 outs, but good things would start to happen for the Mets right here as Jeff McNeil would walk, Brett Beatty would come up, he would walk as well, and now it's bases loaded with 2 outs. Obviously, like we said all throughout this postgame so far, the Mets were unable to get any runners across, but Harrison Bader would come up and really weird as well as I had really had no faith in Harrison Bader here to get this big hit, but he would get a nice little ground ball roller to the third base side, and he was able to ground it out. He was able to beat the throw out. So the Mets were able to get the run across, so they would be up 1-0, and then Brendan Nimmo would get a walk as well. So Jeff McNeil would score off the walk. Mets would be up 2-0, and then Starling Marte would ground out to Vinny Pasquantino, and that would end the bottom of the eighth. So, Mets up 2-0, top of the ninth. We all know what that means. Here comes Edwin Diaz. Here comes the trumpets. So Diaz would come in. He'd get Maikel Garcia to strike out. He'd then get Bobby Witt Jr. to ground out softly to himself. He obviously threw it over to Pete Alonso at first base to get the out. Then Vinny Pasquantino would hit a home run to right field. Even though he hit the home run, I was still confident in Edwin Diaz. This is a guy I trusted now. This isn't, 2019 anymore where you would think, oh no, here comes a meltdown from Diaz. No, he got up the home run, but he was able to compose himself, and he was able to get Freddie Furman to pop out to Pete Alonso. So yeah, like I said, very good performance for the Mets today. Very good pitchers duel from both sides. Like I said, BUTTO pitched very well, and he cemented, for now until Senga comes back, he cemented his spot so far in the rotation. Obviously, like I said before, Ottavino pitched well, Raley pitched well, and Diaz, even though he gave up the home run, he was able to get the save. So yeah, Mets win 2-1. They win the series 2-1 as well, and now they have a very big 3-game set against the Pirates, where like I didn't mention this before, but now they're 7-8, 1 game under 500. So if they can go 2-1 in this series against the Pirates, they could go over 500 now for the first time, which didn't look likely, especially after the first 6 games of the year where they went 1-5. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this post game, and yeah, let's go Mets.